One of the easiest things you can do right now to build more muscle mass without changing any other variable in your training is simply add another rest day to your week. Now, obviously, what this means for you is going to depend on your current split and your routine. So let's say you're training 7 days a week. Cutting down to 6 days, that's a no-brainer. There's literally no scenario where 7 weight training sessions per week is going to be better than 6. But if you're training 6 days per week, maybe doing the typical push-pull legs done twice per week, only having one rest day, it's definitely still not ideal. Cutting that back to, let's say, 5 days per week, either rotating through the push-pull leg setup or simply removing a session that's not a priority right now, that can be a game changer. And this is now where we start to get into the territory of real mass building routines, which generally is done typically anywhere from 3 to 5 days per week. And now for some guys, depending on their lifestyle, their goals, and their strength and experience levels, there's actually a case where cutting down from, let's say, 5 days per week down to 4 days per week has its benefits. Personally, bodybuilding is a complete lifestyle for me, regardless if I'm competing, if it's the off season, or if it's time that I'm just maintaining. As a coach and someone that does this full time, I personally have the ability to optimize my lifestyle to meet my training needs. However, even for me, any more than 5 days per week is counterproductive. And I'll tell you what, in many cases, I even sometimes cut my training down to just 4 days per week. Right now, I'm in a growth phase. Calories are high, recovery is enhanced, sleep is on point, and every session is all out. They're all growth stimulating, and they're all highly productive. So in this situation, I don't necessarily need to spread my training volume out as much throughout the week, like at other times when calories are a bit lower, and I do so to keep the quality of work high in a dieting phase. So right now, I can pretty much go in and smash each session. On my heavy days, there can be a lot of warm-ups, so these sessions can also start to get pretty lengthy. Currently, while doing this, I'm also pushing weights that I've never touched before, so my strength is at an all-time high. Now, in these situations, adding more training days, it's just going to increase my recovery demand. So currently, a great balance in this growth phase for me is 4 very intense, very heavy sessions. That gives me 3 full days to recover each week. Now, in doing so, this also makes it much more difficult to overshoot my recovery ability with those 4 training days. With 3 full rest days and this setup, personally, no matter how hard I train, how heavy I lift, those built-in 3 days of recovery, that just keeps things in check. Now, once I start approaching 5 days per week of lifting, which is how I train the majority of the year, I do have to be very meticulous of how much volume I do and how hard I push it in each session. Because now with only 2 days of rest a week, I have much less room for error. Now, early next year, I will be starting a diet phase after I finish this gaining phase. And during that time, my training will likely resume with a 5-day split. Those workouts will be shorter, especially when my calories and my energy are lower. But for now, I'll be pushing these sessions hard, eating a ton of food, and resting even harder on those 3 days per week. Now, let's talk about my 4-day setup. I'm also going to talk about how the 4-day setup was actually an extremely common and an extremely effective setup used by old school bodybuilders in the off season. Not a lot of people know about that. And if you're looking to implement a 4-day split into your training, I'm going to cover the best options and how to choose the right one for your goals. So currently, I'm running a 4-day torso and limbs setup. Now, this is a program that I've covered many times in the past. It's basically what I like to call the bodybuilder version of the upper-lower split. Now, upper-lower split is one of the best setups to use for strength athletes. It's great to use with the general population and anyone who wants to build general size and strength. But for a competitive bodybuilder or someone who wants to maximize their physique development, upper-lower can have some limitations. Now, if you're a guy who needs overall mass, but let's say your arms are a specific lagging body part, upper-lower is actually one of the worst ways to bring up those lagging arms. You're going to be trying to prioritize a muscle group by training it after you've already pushed hard on your chest, your shoulders, and your back. Very systematically demanding exercises and body parts to train. And you're likely also going to be looking to train your arms about an hour into a session. Not a good idea. Now, if that's you, the torso and limb setup, you simply cut the workout out after the torso work, and you move those biceps and triceps over to the next day, training them first while fresh, and then you move on to the leg work. This works really well since biceps and tricep work, it's not systemically demanding at all. You're never going to miss reps on your squats and your leg presses because you did some hard sets of dumbbell curls before them. Now, personally, my strongest body part are the biceps and triceps. So you might think, Pete, in your case, you should just do upper and lower and put arms on the back burner. And that's a totally reasonable way to look at it. But we do need to look into other factors as well. For me personally, my strength on chest pressing and the intensity that's required for me to bring up my back That takes a ton of time in a training session because of all the extra warm-ups and rest periods I need. Now, if I were to train arms with a full upper body setup, I could literally start running these sessions past the 2-hour mark just for the upper body, not even a full body workout. And realistically, anything you do past 90 minutes in the gym, it's really not building much muscle. There's almost nothing left in the tank to give. So for me, simply to give it my absolute all on my chest, my shoulders, and my back, which I'm looking to bring up, I cut the sessions there. Then I go get some food in, I rest, I recover, I grow. Then I come back in the next day, I knock off a few sets of arms because there's such a strong point that I don't need much volume at all. Typically for me that's about 4 sets. And then I go on to hammer my legs for the rest of that session. Personally, what I found is I'm actually more primed for my leg work after training arms first. And this is because my nervous system is fully awake. Otherwise, if I came into the gym cold and I started training legs, the warm-up period for the start of the leg day is going to have to be much more elaborate to get that same effect. So for me, this is actually a win-win. So to give you guys a breakdown of what it looks like for me right now, torso is trained on Monday and Thursday. So that's the chest, the shoulders, and the back. Limbs are trained on Tuesday and Friday. That's the arms and the legs. Wednesday and Saturday are rest days. Now, I'm doing 4 sets of chest in each of my torso sessions. So that's 8 weekly sets. I'm doing 6 sets for back in each of my torso sessions. So that's 12 weekly sets, and that combines the lats and the upper back. I'm doing 4 sets of delts in each torso session, and that combines all 3 heads of the delt, the front, the side, and the rear. Now on limbs days, I'm doing 4 sets of biceps and 4 sets of triceps for 8 weekly sets. 4 sets of quads, 4 sets of hamstrings, 4 sets of calves, and 2 for glutes. And all these sets are done 0 to 1 rep in reserve, focusing on progressive overload. Now as you can see, this is an extremely simple setup. So there's not a ton of volume at all, and I'm only doing roughly 8 to 12 weekly sets per body part. Slightly more if you're counting in direct overlap, but I keep things simple. And again, the key here as to why this works so well is the 3 days of rest. Especially on the weekends when I have 2 days in a row to rest. I come back fully recovered every week. Now, the torso and limb setup, it might sound like an odd approach. And I know it's also actually been making some waves a bit more recently, for good reason. It's a very effective split. But believe it or not, this actually was a very common split a long time ago. I've spoken about this before, how lots of old school bodybuilders would actually do this in the Arnold era of bodybuilding in the off season. If you know that typical golden era split that everyone used to use back in the day pre-contest, it was that 6 days antagonistic training. That's what they did before a contest. But in the off season, even back then, a lot of those guys understood the benefits of having more rest days. So they essentially combined that 6-day split into the 4-day torso and limb setup that we're talking about here. I first was actually introduced to this split by Bill Grant, who was Mr. America and Arnold's training partner. He actually said that he would always try to keep up with Arnold's training, but the 6 days just always had him burnt out over and over again. And every time he cut it down to 4 days like this, he grew like a weed. So I gave it a try myself years ago, and I personally had the same experience. Now, I'm returning to it, given that in this specific situation, it makes much more sense for me to use it, and right now, I'm milking it for all the progress I can get from it. At the moment, quite a few of my clients are actually running it with great success as well. But you need to understand this. This is a split where it needs to make sense for you. If you're a guy who just needs general mass, a 4-day upper-lower split might serve you just as well. If you need more arm development, let's say your legs are a massive strong point, or you're extremely strong on compound lifts for the upper body, the torso and limbs version might be better suited for you. Either way, you can't go wrong with either split if you're training 4 days per week. And if you want to implement this training, I have a free guide down below giving you guys the guidelines to get this set up and how to structure it for your goals. You can get it right down below in the description. Download it now, and if you want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to subscribe.